Hasard Balthazar is a film that came out in 1966 that's written and directed by Robert Bresson. So, Hasard Balthazar is a $50 Patreon request from Joshua Joyce, and I'm really glad that he requested this film because this is a film that I watched, I believe, 3+ years ago. And I remember liking it quite a bit, but to be honest with you, I don't really remember the film as much as I'd like to. So I'm really glad Josh gave me the opportunity to not only go back and rewatch this movie, but to actually give my official thoughts about it to you guys. And this is a pretty well-loved film. I mean, it's a universally praised film, critically speaking. I mean, any film, journalist, institution, whatever, you'll see this film in the top whatever greatest films ever made. And this isn't a film where we necessarily follow the donkey throughout the entire film and witness the world through the donkey's eyes. I mean, there are a few sequences that lean very heavy into that style, but overall, this film is basically us following the life of the donkey, but at the same time, the film is able to kind of like hop off of that and then shift the focus on the human drama that the donkey just happens to be near. And it kind of swaps back and forth between the human drama and then also showing the result that this human drama and the impact that this human drama has on the donkey's life. And it's through this that we kind of get this very ugly and miserable depiction of humanity and its hand that it has on the corruption of innocence. And personally, I really enjoyed the fact that we didn't just follow the donkey throughout the entire film. I feel like the way that it's able to balance its focus on human drama and, again, like the effects that human drama has on the donkey, I felt like it jumped back and forth between those things in not only a very comfortable way, but in a way that felt really multidimensional. And also really admired the more symbolic and allegorical elements to this film, because the donkey in this movie, to me, it seems very clear that he represents a kind of Christ-like figure who has kind of just taken on this huge burden of the wickedness of humanity, and by the end of the film pays the ultimate price for it all. And I also really enjoyed the ending shot of this film. I thought the ending shot was really powerful, and just again from a symbolic standpoint, just really stands out to me. And it can be quite a difficult film to watch because we see Balthazar throughout the film basically constantly get treated like shit. Balthazar is getting absolutely taken advantage of and exploited, and is basically just living a life of suffering in a way throughout the entire movie. If he's not being kidnapped and being used to assist in crimes, he's being sold off into the circus. The only character in this movie that truly wants to be with Balthazar for no other reason except for love and nurturement is Mary. And Mary's character in this film is a whole can of worms on its own. But Mary's character is basically, in my opinion, kind of like serve as a parallel to Balthazar's character. Because as I mentioned, Balthazar is an innocent character who goes through nothing but suffering throughout the entire film. Mary's character is literally the exact same way. Again, another innocent figure who by the end of the film experiences the worst of humanity. But the reason why I say Mary's character is a huge can of worms is because I feel like it's Mary's character that plays an influential factor as to why I'm not super in love with this movie. Even though I feel like I understand the thematic points that this film is making with her decision making, it still makes me feel detached from the story. And what I mean by that is the fact that her character is super self-destructive, like very intentionally self-destructive. She's given like an A and B path. One path is to choose stable love and romance and see where that leads you. And the other path is basically just go with the worst man you've ever met in your entire life. And as the film progresses, she basically falls in love with the main villain in this movie, really. Really, the villain is humanity in general and mankind. But, you know, the main asshole character in this movie, she falls in love with him and is obsessed with him for really no good reason, except for the fact that she probably just feels incredibly hopeless about her situation in reality now, which, I mean, to be fair, being a woman during these times is a very hopeless situation and is a very oppressive and patriarchal reality to live in, to where basically your entire life and the quality of it is solely dependent on the man you choose and where he decides to go with it. And for that reason, I don't feel like she's genuinely in love with this guy. I feel like she kind of intentionally chose the path of self-destruction because she didn't see a lot of self-worth in herself. And again, even though I feel like I have a pretty solid interpretation on that. It still made me feel a bit detached from the human drama, just because there wasn't really a character that I felt that much investment in. But I do appreciate the thematic layers that were created from her character. Again, all revolving around the corruption of innocence and things of that nature. I just, in terms of me feeling actual character investment and into the drama, I just wasn't as in there as I wanted to be. And even though, as I mentioned in the beginning of this review, that this film doesn't necessarily follow, like, it's not a beginning to end experience where you're following life through the perspective of the donkey's eyes. There are a few sequences that are like that. And honestly, I feel like my favorite scene in the movie is a scene where we are experiencing him getting sold off into the circus through his eyes. I just think, just like from beginning to end, that entire sequence is so engrossing. Throughout that entire sequence, I think the editing and the direction are absolutely incredible. Funny enough, the donkey Balthazar, he's an untrained donkey, but the only part where they actually had to train him was that little math trick that they did in the circus. And the translation of Hasard Balthazar into English means Balthazar at random, which I think is an excellent title choice, because as I mentioned, it does feel it doesn't have the most non-linear presentation, even though this movie does, in terms of narrative, move in a chronological fashion. Just the way that we follow certain dramas doesn't feel, they're not always necessarily logically attached. We kind of just see events as they come. It's through this presentation style that it's really able to amplify and express these kind of nihilistic ideas about, as I mentioned earlier, the corruption of innocence and the impossibility of innocence to sustain itself in a cruel world that we live in. As humanity, we obsess over innocence, but at the same time, if we get our hands on it, it's surely going to die. So with all that being said, I'm going to get Hasard Balthazar a strong 7 out of 10. Yeah, I'm still not super in love with this movie. I do quite enjoy it, and I do get a lot out of it, and I also admire, its place in the film cultural impact of everything. But that's all I got to say about Hasard Balthazar. If you really enjoyed what I had to say about the film, please give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.